You are sitting in the middle of a conversation. No one notices anything unusual. You stay quiet. You look normal. You nod at the right moments. You keep your face composed, as if everything is fine. But no one knows that inside your mind, there is nothing quiet about it. On the outside, you do not react. But on the inside, you have already analysed the entire conversation long before it ends. And because of that, people think you are calm. They think you are cold, distant, hard to read, emotionless. Or maybe they simply think you do not care. But they are wrong. You are not silent because there is nothing inside you. You are silent because there is too much noise inside you. One passing sentence, and you already hear the tone beneath it. One glance that shifts for half a second, and you begin wondering what it means. One small pause in a message, and you may still be thinking about it late into the night. Other people simply live inside that moment, but you are different. You analyze it, you replay it, you expand it. Then you imagine every possible direction where it could go wrong. This is the kind of calm that other people find hard to understand. And in this video, we are going to unpack why some people can seem almost frighteningly quiet, when in truth they are carrying a mind that has never truly learned how to rest. And to understand why your mind cannot let go of those small details, we have to begin with something most people never see. Your filter does not work the way theirs does. For many people, a sentence is just a sentence. A silence is just silence. A late reply simply means the other person is busy. But for you, the world never passes through that simply. You do not just hear the words, you hear the way they are spoken. You hear the pause between sentences. You notice a smile that feels slightly forced, a glance that moves away, a tiny shift in the atmosphere. Your brain is like a radar system that is always on. And the exhausting part is, it never asks whether you want it to be on. Maybe you were born sensitive to the world. Or maybe, at some point, you had to learn how to read other people's emotions just to protect yourself. Whatever the reason is, the result is the same. You absorb more, you notice more, and you become tired faster. That is why your silence is not always peace. Sometimes it is simply the way you try to keep other people from seeing the storm inside you. And when your mind is always scanning that many signals, it does not stay in the present. It begins to move further ahead. You step into a new job, but in your mind, you can already see the possibility of burning out. You begin to grow close to someone, but somewhere inside, you have already imagined the day they might change. You hear a promise, and instead of simply feeling safe, you hear a very small question underneath it. What if one day this is no longer true? This is the part people often misunderstand about you. They call you pessimistic, complicated, someone who creates their own suffering. But you are not hoping for something bad to happen. You simply learned at some point that if you are not prepared, pain can arrive too suddenly. So you think ahead, you predict ahead, you hurt yourself a little in advance, just so that if it really happens, you will not completely fall apart. For you, prediction is not about controlling the future. It is a way of softening the shock. In case one day, the future is not as gentle as you once hoped it would be, but the cost is that you rarely get to rest inside the present. Other people are living in the moment. You are already 3 steps ahead, and seeing too far does not only make you tired, it also makes you lonely in a way that is very hard to explain. You may have many people around you. Messages still come in. Plans still happen. You still laugh. You still talk. You still show up as someone who seems completely fine. But inside, there is a distance no one truly reaches, not because you hate people, but because most conversations only stay on the surface. When someone asks, "How have you been?" you know they usually only want to hear, "I'm fine." When someone asks, "Is something wrong?" you feel that your real answer might be too long, too heavy, too deep, too difficult to place inside an ordinary conversation. So you make yourself smaller. You turn an entire ocean inside you into a few drops that are easier to swallow, not because you want to pretend, but because you have become too used to people not knowing what to do with your truth. And that is a very strange kind of loneliness. Not the loneliness of having no one, but the loneliness of rarely finding someone patient enough to go down to the place where you actually live. But before we turn depth into something too beautiful, there is a darker side that needs to be spoken honestly. But here is the truth that is hard to hear. Not every deep thought is wisdom. Sometimes it is just fear wearing a very intelligent disguise. You call it analysis, but in truth, you are trying to make sure you will not be wrong, that you will not disappoint anyone, that you will not be misunderstood, that you will not be left behind, that you will not be left behind, that you will not have to regret anything. Even a simple message can become a maze. You write one sentence, delete it, write it again. Read it 3 times and still wonder, does this sound too cold? A small rejection can make you imagine an entire chain of consequences. Will they feel hurt? Will they think you are selfish? Will this relationship change? Are you becoming the kind of person you were once afraid of becoming? And just like that, your mind turns one small choice into a courtroom. You are the one on trial, the lawyer, the judge, and the one who has to carry the sentence. Depth is precious, but without a stopping point, it begins to eat away at your ability to act. You are no longer choosing what is right. You are only trying to choose what is least likely to hurt anyone. And that may sound kind, but over time, it makes you disappear from your own life. And strangely, the very thing that hurts you is also the thing that creates a very rare kind of ability. And strangely, the very thing that hurts you is also the thing that creates a very rare kind of ability. You see connections that other people often miss. A sentence that sounds a little harsh is not just a harsh sentence. You can hear the exhaustion behind it. A silent person is not just a silent person. You can feel that there may be something they do not feel safe enough to say yet. An intense reaction is not simply irrational. You wonder what wound made them protect themselves that way. That is not magic. It is thousands of tiny observations your mind has quietly recorded over time. It creates empathy, intuition, creativity, and a very particular ability to see the deeper layer beneath behavior. But this gift is not light. It helps you understand other people. That does not mean other people will understand you in return. And if you are this kind of person, maybe what you need is not another explanation. Maybe what you need is permission to rest. Not to rest from life itself, but to rest from turning everything into something that has to be decoded. You do not need to become shallower. You do not need to become colder. You do not need to become more careless just to hurt less. Your depth is not the problem. The problem is that you have lived for too long as if every thought were an emergency signal. A sentence has to be analysed, an emotion has to be traced back to its source, a silence has to be explained, a bad possibility has to be prepared for in advance. But not every wind is a storm, and not every thought that passes through your mind deserves to sit down and have a conversation with you. Imagine your mind as a room with a strong wind blowing through it. Before, you would run around closing every window, picking up every piece of paper, holding every object so it would not fall, trying to control every small movement. But sometimes the bravest thing is not to control the storm. It is to sit down in the middle of that room and say, I do not need to solve everything right now. The next time a thought comes back for the 3rd time, try naming it. This is worry. This is prediction. This is an old memory. This may not be the truth. That alone is enough. A very small distance between you and your thoughts, but sometimes that small distance is exactly where peace begins. One last thing, you do not need to apologize for feeling life more deeply than other people. Your sensitivity is not weakness. Your silence is not emptiness, and your deep mind is not something that needs to be fixed, so it can look like everyone else's. But remember this: understanding yourself is only the first step. Peace begins when you stop turning every thought into a task that must be solved immediately. What part of deep thinking exhausts you the most? Seeing too much? Feeling too much? Or not being able to find someone who truly understands you? Write it down in the comments, not to prove anything, but so that someone like you might read it and feel a little less alone. You do not need to shrink the universe inside your mind just to fit into a world that is too narrow. Be gentle with yourself. I will see you in the next video.